Hello and welcome to the I Hate Social.
Welcome to the I Hate Social Media podcast, where we cut through the noise and get real about social media strategies for business that actually work. No fluff, no hype, just the raw truth. Here's your host, Micah Derling.
Hello and welcome to the I Hate Social Media podcast. I'm your host, Micah Derling. During my day job, I am the co-founder and co-owner of MR Sterling Productions, LLC, a video production company located in the heart of Lancaster County. I just want to welcome you. I'm so excited to get started doing this. I want to dive in and tell you what the podcast is all about. I'm dying to tell you that. But before I do have to say this. This whole experience has been fraught with challenges. I got together with my team, told them about this idea probably just over a month ago. No joke, this is true. My anticipation, they were like, so when do you think you'd want to kick this off? Are you thinking like August? And I'm like, oh no, I was thinking like in 2 weeks. I had no idea what I was even suggesting. Thankfully, they understood better than I did what a podcast was going to entail. I'm like, it's video production, run and gun, that kind of a thing. No, it's not like that at all. There's a lot of things that get involved in all of that. And here's the thing, it's still not right. There's all kinds of things that aren't right. The lights aren't quite where they're supposed to be. The sign's probably going to move. There's all sorts of things that aren't right. But I want to encourage you with this. And you're going to find that the whole podcast is kind of centered around encouraging small business owners. That's really the desire of my heart. So none of this is perfect, but I don't want perfect to be the enemy of great. I think this can still be great, and what you're doing can still be great. Just get started. Don't wait for the perfect itinerary before embarking on the journey. Just get out the door. That's the biggest thing. Get going, get moving, make the mistakes we already have. And as we progress, we're going to make a lot more of them, and you're going to hear about it. So back to what is I hate social media. Why would I even name a podcast that? Especially this, because the reason for the podcast is to help businesses like ours and Lord willing, like yours, that really want to do more with social media, but kind of don't know where to get started. And here's the thing. To me, there seems like this veil that's around social media. It seems like there are thousands of so-called experts all over the internet willing to sell you their $97 course on how to explode your social media business or explode your business utilizing social media. And I'm like, is any of that true? I mean, surely some of it's true. Surely there are experts out there that really know what they're talking about. But then there's also the hucksters who don't have a clue what they're talking about, but they're willing to make money off of you. Now, I really want to put my money where my mouth is, and I want to be completely transparent about the process. More on that later. But for now, let me start by saying this. How are we going to teach each other? Because that's what it's going to be. This isn't going to be just me talking at you. I want there to be a community around this, and I'm going to keep saying this. More on that later. But to start with, what are we going to do? How are we going to dive in and figure out what works and what doesn't when it comes to social media? What's effective and what's just hype, right? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to have guests every week. This is going to be a weekly podcast. It's going to be 20 to 30 minutes long. And the reason for that, it's very intentional. We want this to be an eminently digestible podcast. I want it to be something that you can listen to when you're getting ready or maybe on your way to work. You could listen to it during your lunch break, on your way home, in the evening when you're getting ready for bed. Shucks, for some people, if you've got a long enough drive, you could probably fit a podcast in on your way to the grocery store. I just want it to be something it's not going to be a burden to add it to your life. I just want the value to be there. And that's why it has to be 20 to 30 minutes. I'd love it if I could make it shorter, but for there to be any significant value, a robust value, it needs to be long enough to get to that and provide that value to you. So I don't want it to be so long that it's a burden, but I don't want it to be so short that it's trite and unhelpful, right? All right. So now we're going to have guests. What kind of guests? There's going to be business owners. We want to have social media influencers on. I'm very interested in having managers that do social media management for small business. I'd even like to have managers that do social media for large corporations, because I want us to have a well-rounded perspective on what's true and what's not, what works and what doesn't, right? So I want to have people on that have succeeded in areas of social media, and I also want to have people on that have failed, not completely at social media, but they've tried things that didn't work. Because I think it'd be really great if we could see what the minefield it looks like, just to see the whole landscape of things and know what pits to avoid. But then again, on the other hand, I want us to know what are the areas where we should invest time. What are the things that really, really matter? And that's the heart of the whole thing. Now, like I said, there's more to it than that. At the end of each podcast, my team and I, we're going to get together and we're going to talk about what we learned in that episode. And then later in the week, we're going to distill it all down and say, hey, these are the top 1, 2, or 3 points from that podcast. These are the things that you can readily apply and execute in your own business to grow, to create growth in the social media space. Now, I said we're going to put our money where our mouth is, and I mean that. The things that we're going to tell you, that distilled information, we are going to implement it in our own business. Right? So we want to hear from you. If you implement the things you learn here, I want to hear from you. Did it work? Did it not work? I want to talk to you about maybe why it didn't work. Because just because implementing a strategy doesn't work, it doesn't mean that something was wrong with the strategy. It could mean that. But it could also mean that something was wrong with the execution, the timing. There's a lot of other things. I want to look into that too. But here's the crazy thing. And I think if that was the podcast, if it was inviting guests on here, asking them the hard questions and really seeking to understand social media, I think that would be enough to be a fantastic podcast. I think we really level it up above the kind of the noise of that space when we start to distill down what we're learning and giving to you 1, 2, or 3 points that you can readily implement into your current strategy. I think that makes it really just a cut above. But I think what's going to set it apart, I think the thing I'm most nervous about, if I'm being completely honest, we're actually going to implement those things into our own business and tell you whether it's working or not. And the reason I'm nervous about that is because there's a level of transparency and vulnerability that I don't think you're going to find anywhere. And the reason I'm excited about it is because, like I said, you won't find it anywhere. I think that's something you can use. Can you imagine? I mean, we're actually going to be learning from people, implementing it in our business, and then telling you whether it worked for us or not. There's a lot of vulnerability because we're going to mess it up. I promise you, we will mess it up. And there's going to be a level of embarrassment probably that's unavoidable. But I'm willing to go down that road and suffer humiliation if it comes to that. So that you can have tools that matter. Not just what somebody says, but what a fellow business owner has experienced. And if it works, think about that. If it works, I can tell you, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to do it. And I can walk you through that stuff. And I'm not trying to charge for any of that. There's not going to be a Patreon account or Patreon, however you say that. I always wonder, is it Patreon or Patreon? Comment in the section. Make a comment about how you think you pronounce that. But there's not going to be an account where we're trying to raise funds here. There's no supported thing. My business is going to completely pay for the entirety of the podcast. Now, there's a financial side to this, and it's simply this. As we learn and as we grow from the podcast, we benefit ourselves. That's what I'm looking to do. I'm just looking to provide the same thing for you. And so we're kind of letting our hair hang out in the wind and saying, hey, look at us as we succeed or fail at some of these things. I think that turns this podcast into something no one's done before and something no one's seen before. It's not being done anywhere that I'm aware of. And I think it makes it powerful. So I hope that you are as excited about that as I am terrified about that. I'm excited and terrified. I think it's going to be awesome. And I think I'm going to hate it sometimes. But I think the benefits far outweigh my embarrassment. I talked about transparency. I talked to you kind of about the podcast itself and some of those things and why I think it's going to be fantastic. Kind of the remaining piece to this puzzle for me is the community part. I really want you to interact with us on this. As you hear people sharing about what has worked, what doesn't work, what some of the better tools and things and strategies that they've implemented that really turned a corner or helped them turn a corner in their business, things like that. That's the stuff I care about. I want us to dialogue about that. If you've implemented it in your business and it worked, share that with us. We're going to do the same for you. My big ask is this. If you look across social media, it's unbelievable to me how I'm just going to be blunt here, how rude people can be. I don't want that here. I'm all about constructive criticism, but I want us to have the mindset that we're just going to help each other. One of my favorite sayings is that a rising tide raises all ships. There's not a limited amount of space here. Yes, there can be spaces where competition is fierce. It's okay to compete that way, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. I'm all about the free market system, but what I'm not about is I'm not about unfair crony advantages. Don't love that. What I want us to do is help each other, and I think we can. I think there's space to do that without putting each other down and just being a source of negativity in our lives. There's just too much of that. So my hope, my prayer is that this is going to be a space where business owners can come together, encourage, and build each other up constructively, yes, critically, of course, but in a way that's generally speaking a positive experience. I want this to be generally a net positive for your life. And man, I just want your businesses to succeed. I know how it feels. I know what it's like. My business, when I say my business is small, we are a sub $1 million cap company, right? As far as our net revenue and all that stuff. And I'm just saying that, I'm putting that out there just so you know we're small. Do I want to get bigger? Of course I want to get bigger. This is literally why I'm doing this, so that I can understand. But if I can understand it, I can teach it. And it doesn't matter if you have a $5 million business, a $10 million business, or a $20 million business. The only thing that matters is, are we implementing strategies that work? Are we executing them well? And are we getting results? So I want to help you do that. I am pumped to learn with you. I'm pumped to walk through this journey with you. And just so you can have a sense about the timeline, I'm literally thinking of this in terms of a 2-year scope. So what you are going to end up with, or what we're going to end up with, is a real-time case study that you're going to observe. So you will actually watch us perform a case study on ourselves over the next 2 years. You'll see the results, whether they've worked or whether they haven't. And here's the reason I'm so excited about it, to be like totally honest and like I said, transparent with you. I think that social media is an extraordinarily powerful tool. I think that there are, of course, hucksters, but I think there are brilliant people out there that truly care, that truly want to help, that are going to bring us information that are going to help us and you turn a corner. All I'm asking is come along for the ride. It's going to be an epic journey, one small business's journey into social media, into understanding how it works and how to achieve significant growth through those platforms. All right, guys, that's all I have for now. Looking forward to next week's episode. And listen, I'll just give you one example of how kind of not ready we really are. And we just kind of kicked it off anyway. When you launch a podcast, they actually recommend that you have 3 in the hopper. I have none in the hopper. We haven't even filmed the second episode. This is literally the first episode. It's going out today. Today's Tuesday. I'm filming right now. I can tell you this. My watch died. That's how not ready we are. It's the afternoon. I've been working all day. Came home. We're like trying to crank this thing out and just get the information out there. And we're just going to do it. We're just doing it. I am stoked beyond measure. I hope you are too. But my hope and my ultimate prayer is that this will benefit you in ways that you can't even imagine. I really think there's an opportunity for us to grow together, and I'm looking forward to doing that. Come along with us for the ride. It's going to be epic. Also, like and subscribe and share with your friends. Is that what I'm supposed to say? I had to hit the button, smash that like button. Whatever you're supposed to do, we're going to learn what it is, and I want you to do that with me. So